So in this video, we're going to look at different types of questions you could face in an exam around trial and improvement. We're going to start off by looking at simple examples like this. We're going to then move on to slightly more difficult examples where you've got a coefficient in front of the x. And then we're going to look at examples where the answer has a negative in it. And then finally, we're going to look at examples where you've been given no solution range. So the way my videos work, I'm going to do the example on the left, which is I do. You're then going to press pause and have a go at the example on the right. So grab yourself a pen, grab yourself some piece of paper and work with me. So with these type of questions, there's a specific way you have to answer them. So we've been told in the question to answer it using the trial and improvement method and give the answer to one decimal place. So the way you answer these questions, you split, you draw a line like that, and a line across. In the middle, we just write what we've been given in the question. So that's x cubed minus 4x is equal to 23. And on the right, we write small or big. Okay, so we're going to try what we've been given in the question. We've been told the solution is between 3 and 4. So the first thing we're going to do is try 3 and then try 4. So when you type this into your calculator, and the way you type it into your calculator is using brackets. So you're going to do 3 cubed minus 4 bracket 3. And when you type that into your calculator, you get 15 here. Now 15 is small because the answer we are looking for is 23. Okay, 15 is smaller than 23. When we try 4, we get 48. That is big. I'm just going to use the word B there. So now we know the 15 is closer to 23 than 48 is. So that means the next try we're going to do is going to be between 3 and 4, and it's closer to 3, so we're going to try 3.3. If you're ever in doubt at this point, you can always do 3.5. So we know between 3 and 4, halfway between them is 3.5, but we know looking at this, that 15 is closer to 23 than 48, so we're going to try 3.3 for that reason. And if you try 3.3, you get 22.737 when you sub that into your calculator. Now that is small. And then we need to go bigger to get closer to our answer. The answer we're looking for is 23. So that gives me 25.704 when I type that into my calculator, which is too big. So we've now sort of trapped the answer in this range. And we're now going to go halfway between this range. So that is going to be halfway between these two numbers is 3.35. And that gives me 24.195, which is big. Okay, and finally, we're going to draw a number line at the bottom like this. So we have 3.3 there, 3.4 there, and halfway between them is 3.35. Now we know 3.3 was too small. Okay, so we put small there. This was too big. This was too big. So that means my answer lies in this region here. So to one decimal place, my answer is 3.3. Okay, so press pause and have a go at the next one. And again, hopefully you've had a go at this. So we try x cubed plus 4x is equal to 100. And here we write small or big. Draw our lines in. Awesome. So remember, the very first step is to try what was given in the question. So you were given 4 and 5. 4 gives me 80. 5 gives me 145. Now 80 is small. 145 is big. Now looking at these two, I can tell the answer is closer to 4 than 5 because 80 is closer to 100 than 145 is, okay? But again, if you're ever in doubt at this point, just go halfway between them. So that's 4.5. So if you sub that into your calculator, you get 109.125. Now that is too big. We want to get closer to 100, so we're going to go smaller. We go 4.4. That gives me 102.784, which again is still big. So we go 4.3. And that gives me 96.707, which is small. There we go, we've trapped the answer. So now we know that the answer is within this range. So then we go halfway between this range, and that's going to be 4.35. I sub that into my calculator, and I get 99.712, which is small. And finally, I draw this little line down here. We have 4.3, we have 4.4, and then halfway we have 4.35. We know this was too small, this was too small, and this was too big. So my answer is in this range here. And to one decimal place, my answer is 4.4. Okay, and just a quick word on marks. So you would get 1 mark for this bit here. you would get 1 mark for trapping the answer. You would then get 1 mark for going halfway between the trapped answer, and then finally you would get 1 mark for giving the final answer. Okay, so you do need to show this entire method. It is key to do that. Do not just show this one step. I've seen some people do this. Sometimes they just write this one line and then they write the answer as 4.4. Okay, you need to show this entire working out. So moving on to slightly harder examples. So again, it's all about showing the method, because in these type of questions you get quite a lot of method marks. So again, the first step is nice and easy. We're going to try the solutions given in the answer. So they've told us it's between 5 and 6. So when you sub 5 into your calculator, you get -2, which is small. When you sub 6 into your calculator, you get 34, which is big. So I can see from this that 10 is closer to -2 than it is to 34. So that means I should probably start with a value closer to 5. So we're not going to go 5.5. You can do 5.5 if you want, but I'm going to go with 5.4. So if I try 5.4, I get my answer as 9.664, which is surprisingly small. Okay, so that means I need to go bigger. So I'm going to go 5.5, and that gives me 13.125, which is big. So it's bigger than 10. So we've trapped the answer. So we know the answer is in this region here. We're then going to go to the midpoint of this, which is 5.45, and that gives me 11.366, which is big. And then finally, you draw your little line down here. You have 5.4, 5.5, 5.45. This is small, big, big. So there we go. The answer is in this range here, and our answer to 1 decimal place is 5.4. So moving on to the next one. Again, hopefully you've pressed pause and had a go at this. So again, we're going to draw this out. So that's 2x cubed plus x minus 100 is equal to 0. We have small, big, line down here, one line across. We're going to try the solutions given in the question. So that's 3 and 4. 3 gives me -34, which is small, and then 4 gives me 32, which is big. So I can see the answer is closer to 4 than it is to 3. So I'm going to go with 3.6. Actually, we'll go with 3.5. Again, like I said before, if you're ever in doubt, just go right halfway in between them. So that gives me -10.75, which is small. Okay, so I need to go bigger. So that 3.6 gives me -3.088, which is still small. 3.7 gives me 5.006, which is big. Okay, so now I have trapped my answer. The answer's in this range here. So I'm going to go halfway between them, which is 3.65. And that gives me 0.90425, which is, again, it's bigger than 0. So then I draw my line at the bottom. We have 3.6, 3.7, and 3.65. So 3.65 was too big, 3.7 was big, and 3.6 was small. So I've trapped my answer in this range here. So to 1 decimal place, my answer is 3.6. So moving on. Now we have negative answers, so it's a little bit more tricky with these ones, and I'll show you just why. So try x cubed plus 5x squared minus 4 is equal to 5, big, small. So again, first step's always the same. Try the values given in the question. So in this case, we've been given -4 and -5. So that gives me 12, which is bigger than what we need. And this gives me -4, which is smaller than what we need. And just a word of warning here, the way you type this into your calculator, again, is more crucial with negatives that you are using brackets. So that's going to be -4 cubed for the first one, plus 5 bracket -4 squared -4. Okay, so that is how you're going to type that into your calculator. So now I know, looking at this, it's a little bit difficult to tell whether the answer is closer to 5 or 4. You can obviously look at it and just figure it out. But if you're ever in doubt, like I said, you can always go right halfway, which is minus 4.5. So that gives me 6.125, which is big. So I need to go smaller. Now, this is where people mess up, okay? And you can recover fine when you mess up. So because they need to go smaller, what some people think is, oh, I need to go to a smaller value. So they'll say, oh, so smaller will be minus 4.4. And that's incorrect, because in negative terms, if you draw a number line, you have 10, 5, 0, minus 5, minus 10. Now notice 10 is bigger than 5. However, minus 5 is bigger than 10. So in this case, we want this value to be smaller. Now, we haven't made this smaller. By going from minus 4 to minus 4.5 to minus 4.4, we've actually made the value bigger, and you'll see what happens when I do that. So I'm actually going to write this in red. And it's fine to make this mistake, because you can always recover, like I said. So if you did do minus 4.4, you'll find your answer to be 7.1616, which is too big. And you can see now, you want to get to 5, and from here to here, the answer's gone up. So you're moving further away rather than closer to your answer. So when you do that, you should realize, oh, I've made a mistake, and my understanding of negatives has gone wrong there. So if I want to make the answer smaller, I'd have to go 4.3 there. And that gives you 4.6. And that gives you 4.464, okay, because 4.6 is smaller than 4.5, and you want to make the answer smaller, and that is now closer to 4.5. So essentially, we've now trapped the value between 4.5 and 4.6. You can just ignore this bit here that I wrote in the middle, but that was just to prove the point there, where people do make this mistake with negatives. So halfway between these two is 4.55, sorry. And that gives you 5.316125, which is big. And then finally, you draw your number line. And that's 4.5. This is big. This was small. This was big. So that means we have trapped the value in this range here, and the answer is minus 4.6 to 1 decimal place. So hopefully you've pressed pause and had a go at the example on the right. So it's the exact same method that we are using again, but just taking care with the negatives again. That's the key bit here. And again, if you do make a mistake, you should look at your answer and think, am I getting closer or further away from my answer? And that will just give you a good hint into what direction you want to head in. So just to recap that bit here, when I went from here to here, I actually moved further away from my answer. I want to get closer to 5. So then I went, oh, okay, cool. So I don't need to be moving towards 4.4. I need to be moving towards 4.6. So coming here, again, step 1, you always want to do this. You get a mark for this. So make sure you put in the values that are given to you in the question, small, big. And then I can see from this, it's closer to minus 6 immediately. So I can just go, well, rather than going 6.5, I can just go 6.4 straight away. So that's 24.578, which is small. And then minus 6.3, which is 27.783, which is small. And then minus 6.2, which is 30.752, which is big. So I've trapped the value between these two. So then I can go halfway between these two to get my other mark, which is minus 6.25, and that's 29.296, which is small. And then finally, I draw my line. And again, just a reminder on that, yeah. So this answer was too small. We wanted to go bigger. And to go bigger, we're not going to minus 6.5. Okay, minus 6.5 here is going to be smaller. So in order to go bigger, we have to make this number bigger. It can be a bit confusing with negative numbers, but just check your answer and just think to yourself, am I getting further away or closer? So with this one, it'll be minus 6.2, minus 6.25, and minus 6.3. Okay, so that's too small, that was too big, and that was too small. So my answer is in this region here. So to 1 decimal place, my answer is minus 6.2. And finally, You can also have examples like this where you haven't actually been given a range. But again, we go in the exact same way. We write try. So 2x cubed plus 10x is equal to 100. And then small big in the far right column. So you have small. Realize I've drawn that quite a bit, but that is fine. So in this case, we haven't been given any numbers, so we can just try 2. Let's start with 2. 2 gives me 36 when I type it into my calculator, which is too small. 3 gives me 84, which is smaller than 100. 4 gives me 168, which is bigger than 100. Okay, so I know my answer's in this range. So I know that it's going to be closest to 3 than 4 because 84 is closer to 3. So straight away, I'm just going to go with, let's try 3.3. That gives me 104.874. Now that is big, so I want to go smaller than that. So that's going to be 3.2, which is 97.536, which is small. So I've trapped the answer within this range. And I'm going to go halfway between that. And that gives me 101.15625, which is big. And finally, draw my little line down here. So we have 3.2, 3.25, and 3.3. So 3.3 is big, 3.2 is small, and this is big. So my answer to 1 decimal place is within this range here. So that is going to be 3.2 is my answer. Again, press pause and have a go at this. When you're ready, press play for the answers. So I'll try with 2 again. So if I go with 2 there, that gives me 12, which is small. 3 gives me 36, which is still smaller than 50. And 4 gives me 80, which is bigger than 50. So I know my answer is between 3 and 4. It's going to be closer to 3 than it is to 4 by the looks of it. So let's try 3.3. That gives me 46.827, which is smaller than 50. 3.4 gives me 50.864, which is bigger than 50. So I've trapped my answer in this range here. So then 3.35 is what's midway between them two, which is 48.817, which is small. And then for my final mark, draw this down here, 3.3, 3.4, 3.35. So this is big, small, small. And my answer is in this range here. So to 1 decimal place, my answer is 3.4. And here are some practice questions for you to have a go at. Press pause and have a go. When you're ready, press play for the answers. Here are the answers. Mark your work. So in this video, we've covered all the various type of exam questions you could get around trial and improvement. So just as a recap, we've covered this in 4 parts. And if you found this video useful, please consider giving it a like, share, and subscribe. And I've got loads of other content like this on my YouTube channel, so do check it out. And as always, I'll catch you in the next one.